My name is Amir Hussain. I'm a professor of theology here at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. I'm a Muslim. I'm not Turkish. I'm not a member of the Hizmet Movement, so I can say this with some, detachment and objectivity. That what I know about the Hizmet Movement, the people that I've known, is that it's deeply Islamic. It represents the best of Islam. We have a colleague at Catholic University of America, Pim Valkenburg, who wrote a book called Renewing Islam by Service. A book about the Hizmet movement. And for me, that's the key. How do you live your life as a Muslim? Well, you go out there, you try to make a difference in the world as a Muslim. And that's how I see the Hizmet movement, as being deeply, deeply Islamic, rooted, as it has to be for any Muslim, in the Qur'an, in the Sunnah, in the example of the Prophet. That's really the key here. Mm-hmm. So I think that the Hizmet movement is, and I say this as someone who's not a member of the movement, but I see the Hizmet movement as being deeply rooted in Islam, very much connected to the Qur'an, very much to Sunnah, very much that traditional notion of to be a Muslim is to do service, it's to do good things, it's to educate, it's to feed, it's to nourish people. But then to then say that this now makes you guilty, that now because you're a Muslim, now because you follow this interpretation of Islam, you're somehow regarded as un-Turkish, as a terrorist. I mean, that's really problematic. And of course, as someone who believes in the rule of law, that look, if people do bad things, they need to be punished for that. But we have a process in place. We have a court system. We have a judicial system. You can't just say, I think that person's guilty, throw him in jail. Yep. We fought a revolution against the British precisely because King George did that kind of thing. And so you want to say, look, if there are bad people, absolutely we have to bring them to trial. Absolutely, the coup, the number of people killed, one person killed, that's a horrible thing, let alone hundreds of people being killed. But that doesn't mean you can then do the same kind of thing and bring people in, arrest them, not give them a trial, not charge them, not show them the evidence that is against them, so they can then refute it or accept it. I think that's the issue. So, for example, coming back to Mr. Gulen, the Turkish government has wanted the Americans to extradite Mr. Gulen. Well, America is a country that supports law, order, and justice. So that if the American government had evidence against Mr. Gulen, you would hope that they would take that seriously and say to Mr. Erdogan, yes, actually, we have some evidence. So yes, we will extradite him. We will send him back. They haven't done that. I can't see them doing that because, in America, the issue is the rule of law. My fear is that that's not happening in Turkey anymore, because Turkey very much was, and it pains me to say this again as a Muslim, that you could always point to Turkey as an example of we're not an autocratic, we're not a despotic regime. We don't have a tyrant, we don't have a king, we don't have a president for life like we do in, unfortunately, so many Muslim countries. And you could always point to Indonesia, you could point to Turkey and say, look, here are examples. Here's a Muslim country where you've got democracy, where you've got freedom, where you've got the rule of law, where you don't have a military dictatorship, where you don't have a monarch, you don't have a king, Unfortunately, it's becoming quite problematic, and I think that becomes a danger, that is Turkey becoming, unfortunately, more like those despotic, autocratic regimes, less like the beacon of freedom, where you try to avoid what's really going on, what the real issues. You try to avoid the issues in your country, and you paint someone else in a negative kind of light. And so all that I know about the Hizmet movement, which comes from years of knowing people, of studying it, of reading about it, of working with people, it's the farthest thing from any kind of terrorist organization.